Welcome to the Santa Dialogues, a podcast for the Santa Sabina community featuring our teachers, students and experts from our community who come together to discuss issues relevant to our students, their learning and their well-being. My name is Paulina Skerman and I am the college principal at Santa Sabina and also host of our podcast. The Dominican St. Thomas Aquinas firmly believed that there was all truth somewhere, but also that there was some truth everywhere. He took all objections seriously, carefully distinguishing any truth in them from its error. This is the basis of the modern theological use of the term dialogue. The pursuit of truth is a shared journey of discovery. The Santa Dialogues, therefore, is a vehicle for us to enjoy a shared journey of discovery in the pursuit of truth. This year, Santa Sabina College is celebrating its 130th anniversary, and today we're all going to talk about what makes this place so incredibly special and what we love about it. What's really struck me in my time here in Sydney is the number of people I run into who have some connection with the school. And it's been from the first day I got here. I'm not local, as you know, and it didn't matter where I went in the inner west and around this area, people would have some connection to this school. And so there seems to be this love affair with the school. And the other thing I've noticed is that the girls tend to be friends forever, for life, once they've come to school here. So the college did begin 130 years ago, and we had just 7 girls in Rosary Lodge. That was in 1894, and we're actually in the 1894 building today. This is the original building in the college. Today it's evolved into a school with 5 campuses, including our outdoor education centre at Talong, our early learning centre Mary Bailey House, our Peter Ford Del Monte campus, our Joya House Tween precinct, and of course our secondary school, girls from year 7 to 12. We have an enrolment now of nearly 1,400 students, I beg my pardon, from Mary House babies right through to year 12, and we employ 300 staff. And that's from classroom teacher to professional support staff. So massive community here at the college. I think we have 2,500 parents. Today I'm joined by this really fabulous panel. We welcome over to my right there, Sister Elizabeth Hellwig, Dominican sister, Dominican archivist, and Sister Liz has been a sister for 59 years. She's been on the campus at Santa Sabina for 42 of those years, working mainly for the Sisters Administration needs, but since 1991, she's been a professionally trained archivist and historian, and she's Dr. Elizabeth Hellwig. Dr. Sister Elizabeth Hellwig. We also welcome our ex-student here, Trudy. Trudy started here at Del Monte in 1962. Yes, and she followed 3 cousins to the college, followed then by 4 sisters, yes. And then your daughter came here. So Trudy's been a member of the Ex-Students Association since Low Sunday 1969. That was a good year. And on the committee of the association since 1997. And your association with the college covers 62 years as a student, ex-student and past parent. And about 8 years ago, you started helping in the archives, scanning thousands of photos, and now you help the community relations team when needed. And your favourite job is to set up the photo boards for our golden boys and girls.
Absolutely.
And so our golden boys and girls is when people have been away from the college, is it their 50 years? 50 years, and they come back.
Leaving or high school certificate, yeah.
We're also joined today by Yvette Graniero. Yvette began kindergarten here in 1983 and she finished year 12 as the vice captain in 1995. She went on to study communications, majoring in public relations at UTS, and then she did further studies in event management. This is a woman who truly, truly, truly loves the school, and her love for this place drew her back here in 2013, and she's now our Director of Community Relations. And this role sees her build and maintain relationships with all of our stakeholders, including parents, ex-students, the whole community. She's into strategy, she implements programs, and she works to keep our community connected. Beyond Santa Sabina, she also serves as a board director and she's the president of the New South Wales ACT chapter of Educate Plus. And this is an organisation that actually provides professional support to people in her job. So fairly new and very exciting kind of work that you're doing in Australia and New Zealand. I'm also really thrilled that we've got two students with us here today. Two students from Year 11. They're our history ambassadors. They are also co-authors of the 130 flashback articles which are being published in our school newsletter, The Veritas Voice. So we've got Remy Apostolopoulos. Perfect. She's already an accomplished young woman, a local champion and regional finalist of the Plain English Speaking Award. She debates. You're a CBIN Foundation representative. You're a member of National Ocean Youth, and you're a representative and program facilitator for the Australian School of Entrepreneurship. And just because she's not busy enough, she's also a City of Sydney Youth Advisor, and she was recently invited to speak at the 2024 Youth Leadership Summit. And finally, to my left here is Anna Maria Sulukojan, and she joins us as our second Year 11 ambassador, history ambassador. You've been at the school for 4 years, and you contribute as a member of the Ryde Youth Council. You're advisor for a political party. You work with Model United Nations, and you're a representative of the college in soccer, and you've just been on a tour to New Zealand, and you do the Duke of Edinburgh as well, okay? Yeah. And so tell me, what did you think of all those women winning gold at the Olympics, being the sportswoman in the room?
It was very inspiring to see that women have gone so far in the sporting arenas, for sure. It was really beautiful to see how well Australia did, mostly, coming fourth. That was fantastic. And also I think it's just really nice to see that type of role modelship in sports, mostly for the women, for the girls growing up these days. It's definitely nice to see such great role models, and I think it's beautiful.
Speaking of role models, let's talk about Santa Sabina College and the role models that we also have here, and that will of course be part of our conversation today. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about why this place is special to you. So what do you love about this place? Who'd like to go first?
Look, I love Santa, being the fact that my whole schooling was done here. You know, that has a really massive impact on my life. And I remember when I came back to the college to work here, it was like I got my dream job because I loved school so much. I made the most amazing friends who are still my best friends now. And it was really funny. I remember being in Year 12 and people saying to me, you know, don't wish these days away because you wish you'd be back here. So to return here to work here is something really special. But there is something really special, not only about our amazing grounds, they're magnificent. You walk up that main drive and there's this sense that it hits you in the face like I'm in a really magical place. But really, one of our Dominican pillars is community, and there is something really special about our community. It's just, it's palpable. You feel it. Yeah.
And Liz, you've had a very long association with the school. You now do all of the history. Tell us about what you love about it.
I think what I love about it, since I've been here since 1981, is to see how readily Santa Sabina runs with change and how it's constantly looking at best practice. I've seen so many changes. I can remember when I started here on the staff, we had Laminex tables in the staff room, and then we were given Corels and we hated them. We used to throw lollies over the top to make sure that there was a person on the other side. But I've seen such enormous changes in curriculum. I've seen changes in the way people have addressed modern girls and the constant push to see what is best for the girls. Not this is our tradition, this is the way we always do it. Certainly tradition is a foundational thing, but it very much reflects the Dominican charism in the sense that Dominic wanted us to be very strong on addressing the needs of the people in their time and their circumstances. And he doesn't expect us to do it in his way, but he expects us to study really hard at who are these people that we are being God to, and recognising all the time that God is in each person. And I think to look for the holy everywhere. So I think that really does happen at Santa Sabina. And I'm in awe of the beauty of the place, the history of the place, and the way generations change.
So speaking of generations, Liz, let's talk to our young one here, one of our young ones. So we've got multi-generations. Talk to us a little bit about what you love. You're in Year 11, about to step into Year 12. Why is this place special to you?
I think a big part of schooling is you are in a place where you're able to find your passions and you have room to make mistakes that you don't always get when you move out into the real world. And I think one thing I love about Santa Sabina is that there are so many opportunities given to us here, and we are actually encouraged to take risks and to make mistakes. And I think it's so important to have an environment like that where just because you make a mistake, it doesn't mean that you're done. That's actually a really important learning opportunity. And also, I really liked what you said earlier. When Santa girls who come here, there is that community that remains after you graduate. One of my close friends, we know each other because our mums went here together. Yeah. And I think that idea that we're not just going to know each other for this brief period of our lives, but it's going to extend for generations to come until we're,
But even saying that, last week we had year 13 back. So the girls who graduated last year came back to get their yearbooks and to have drinks with us in the afternoon. And they sat down with you, Yvette, at the end and said, we miss this place so much. We miss that people really care about us, and it's not quite the same as that in the real world. But of course, everyone who passes through this door is welcome back. And Trudy, you're clearly welcome back. We love having you here. What is important to you? What do you love about this place? Why do you keep? And your entire family almost has been here.
The thing I think that always strikes me being here is the beauty of the grounds. And some time ago I heard the piece by Elizabeth Union about composed about Santa Sabina, and in the middle the bell rang. Oh no, it was part of the music. It's part of the sound of Santa Sabina, the beautiful grounds. I saw an owl in these grounds at 9:30 in the morning. That's important to me. But it's also the traditions. Don't walk on Dom's plot, except on Dom's Day. It's the continuation of life. But one of the most amazing things that in the time I've been coming back to the college is seeing the students of today. They are extraordinary, and I wish I knew more about them because they are amazing.
They are extremely amazing, and I think sometimes young people get a bit of a rough deal in the media, in the world, but those of us who work with young people every day know that they are extraordinary. And Anna Maria, up to you now. What's your love of this place come from? What do you think is special about it?
It comes from, I think, definitely the pillars that we're inspired by. So community, service, prayer, study. I feel like that guides most girls down a path, and it definitely has guided me down a path of what I want to do in the future, what I want to impact in the future. And I think having those guidelines in my life that were presented by Santa Sabina definitely have inspired me to conduct my life, how I conduct myself. And I think that's what's so important, because it's such a big part of my personality, who I am. So definitely.
Yeah, it does, and you'll have to help me here, but it does seem to me that the girls who've gone through the college tend to really make an impact in the social justice, in making the world a better place. I mean, we've just had our Australian of the Year. Last year was Dr. Georgina Long, who's curing cancer. We've got...
we have a number of ex-students go into those fields, and actually...
Working with refugees.
Absolutely, yeah. Because social justice is such a big part of the community. But and I know Jane Soulis, one of our amazing staff members here, she's doing an action research project on the impact that a Santa education has had on your career later on. So she's trying to even track that through what Santa means to students when they leave the gate.
So Liz, you were talking about how we move with the times, we embrace what's happening today and we change to suit those circumstances. And Trudy, you were talking about tradition and that we have to do both here at the college. Tradition is really important. It kind of keeps us grounded, and there is rich symbolism in this school. So Elizabeth, from your perspective, what are some of those symbols here at the college that we hold dear to our hearts?
I think Dom's plot and the area around it, the buildings, are extraordinary for symbolism. And of course, one of the most significant ones, which we like to forget about, is the dog on the top.
Yes.
That's really a play on the words Dominicanes, hounds of the Lord. And that has been and continues to be a very important symbol of Dominicans all around the world. I think sometimes we forget that Santa Sabina is one school and that there are many, that the Dominicans at the moment are in 212 countries.
And they have a long history,
818 years.
Yes.
1206 we were founded.
Yes, yes.
And so that's a very rich tradition to belong to. It's not going to go away, and it has so much to say about St. Dominic always being in command of his circumstances in his times, and he chose to do it very differently to the way the church was operating before he got going. So
it's interesting though too, you talk about St. Dominic, and when we look at Thomas Aquinas, it's actually a very modern way of living, some of the ideas that we get from them. For example, St. Thomas Aquinas is all about understanding other people's perspectives, listening to understand, and that today to me seems to be more important than ever. And that has been at the heart of the Dominican charism forever, I think is really rich and powerful.
It's that emphasis on study, knowing the people that you're talking with. In the first 50 years or so in the Dominican order, men wrote the first encyclopedia of science. Somebody even wrote the encyclopedia of the horse.
Right.
Somebody also managed to look at what is speaking to the people. That's how the Rosary began. The Rosary originally was a Christianizing of the Muslim prayer beads. And we forget that they did everything possible to meet the needs and the understandings of the people that they were trying to present the gospel to, because they understood that people are precious, that God is in all of those people. It's just that they had to form a relationship with those people to be able to bring the word of God clearly to them.
Over that 130 years history of the college, we do a little recording at the end of each term. We call it the lamppost, and that's because we have this gorgeous black lamppost, and it sits and has seen everything that's gone on here since the beginning of time, really. Yvette, you've done a little bit of research, or a lot of research. You put together the 125-year book. Do you want to hold it up there? And that gives us an idea of what happened in the first 125 years. And I go back to it a lot, but we've got wars, we've got a bomb shelter, we've got the Spanish flu. Tell us a little bit about what this school has seen.
Well, I mean, I couldn't have written this book, without the help of Sister Elizabeth. She was an amazing support in this. But I love looking at, and I know the history girls, you do it as part of it. Like, Santa is like a living history. So it's really interesting to look at all the different times in society and all the things that had happened. The girls, we looked at COVID being a really interesting point here, and we had to have masks and sit outside for classes. But when you go back through the archives, in the Spanish influenza, they did exactly the same thing. They had classes outside. They worked really hard to make sure everyone was safe. They wore masks. So it's really interesting to think about students all those years ago and what was going on in society, and that Santa's seen all of the different changes in society but moved and grown. And like Liz said, and like you said, Paulina, I feel that Santa's really, and it is the Dominican sisters that have helped us lead that idea that we aren't held back in our tradition. We honour them, but we move forward as well, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to remember that Santa was founded 25 years after the sisters arrived in Australia, and it was their 6th school. But those 8 women who came out in 1867, managed to gather 100 Australian girls by 1900.
Yeah.
So it was something about them that was always forward-thinking and always accepting of new challenges and new people to do things with, and realising that everybody had a gift to share.
Do we all agree, or maybe we don't, we do have boys here to year 4, but then it's all about girls from year 5 to 12. But I guess for me, growing up with sisters in my school, they were Mercy sisters, not Dominican, but the nuns and the sisters for me were the first feminists. There were strong role models who had careers and were teachers and were out there doing wonderful things. And I think that very much our school continues to be that place where women are front and centre. How do you feel about, are we feminists here? Do you feel that we're all about making girls the best they can be?
Yes, I think we are. Like, our motto is shake the world. And I think like putting girls to that level of we can impact anything. We can impact anything, and we can do it in a way where we are guiding ourselves with that Dominican ethos. And it's definitely like beautiful to see how our teachers and even our peers, we push each other to our best like capabilities, and it's beautiful to see.
Some people would say that we're a little bit naive, that we're got girls in this girls space, and that they're not in the real world because they don't have boys here, and they won't be able to manage boys when they leave here or have relationships. I went to a girls' school and I managed to have a very nice relationship with my husband. But tell me, what do you think? Do you think that our girls are missing something or not?
Well, I think at the moment there is that big push for co-education, a lot of the time prevalent in these boys' schools, but it kind of links back to what I was saying before. One of the things I love most about this school is you have that room to fall, and that is what allows you to grow in the end. So I believe that having this safe space, not that boys make it unsafe, but having this place where surrounded by women who want to see you succeed, and by girls who see you as a friend and as an equal and not someone who is inferior to you or anything like that. You don't have those kind of you're not surrounded by that toxic environment that we do see sometimes in other co-ed environments.
Yes.
And I think that's so important, because having that space, like I said, to fall so that you can fly, and having that space to make mistakes and not be almost penalised for it, so that you can...
Trudy, did you feel that when you were here? Is that women can do anything kind of, was that part of...
It wasn't said necessarily. Sometimes it was said, but it wasn't said necessarily. But what you can take from this is I had a very ordered education. There were 25, 30 students in every class, and although we were to a certain extent graded in high school, we did the same thing at the same time. We didn't have the freedoms. So we talked about tradition, but there's also the tradition of meeting the standards, of empowering women. And I look at what it was like when I was here 60 years ago, and I look at what the girls have these days. And
I mean, I think we had the first science labs, one of the first science labs for women in the country.
Yes.
Even more so, one of the pioneers delighted people on the very first open day by giving them
Electric shocks.
Which was the latest thing. So
Which is very fitting in Science Week that we're talking about that.
Yes. And the sisters right through expected the students to matriculate, they expected them to go on. There was not this idea that they were only here to learn how to be a good wife.
Well, actually, I've got this beautiful quote from Sister M. Dolores, 1926. She delivered a paper at the Catholic Teachers Conference, and she was very clear about a woman's place in the world. And she said, "It's time for us to realise that we must train our girls for their own generation. Time too, be it whispered, for the men to teach their boys that the new woman should be accepted without comment, and her economic liberty granted without grudge." Yeah, and I think it's about 1926, and we still want that now. We want our young women to be independent, earn their own money, rely on themselves. Yeah, 100%. So let's talk a little bit about the Golden Boys and Girls. Now, Golden Boys and Girls is when you come back to school after you left 50 years ago.
Yes.
And Trudy, you have a lot to do with that. But girls, you went along this year and you interviewed the Golden people. Why do those stories from the past matter to you? Why is it important to you to hear those stories from people who were here when Trudy was here?
And older.
And older.
Well, I think that knowing the history of a place makes you a part of it, right? And one of the things I enjoyed most about going to the Golden Oldies lunch was hearing...
Oops. It's all good.
Golden girls and boys.
Golden girls and boys, sorry.
They're not old, really.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine.
Trudy's okay, everyone's okay.
It's all good. Keep going.
One of the things I loved the most about going to the Golden Girls and Boys lunch was hearing their stories and hearing them share laughs over things that happened 50 years ago, and they still remember these little things, these little almost mundane occurrences, things that probably we experience every day, but we won't think that that's significant until we look back and reflect on our time at the school and how it shaped us. And
I actually think some of their stories are much
bit
more
cheeky.
risque.
Yeah.
I think they're much more daring than you girls really.
Yes.
I mean, we've got that story of the lady who was a young girl and escaped from the boarding house and went to the Beatles concert.
We've got girls who used to sneak out down at Buttercup Lane at the back and have their cigarettes and things. We've got, others.
Our girls would never do that today.
No. We've got stories of when they try to trick the nuns and hide, and there's all these sorts of I can't imagine
They
ever
put
doing.
Holyrood up for sale.
Yeah. They put.
They put Holyrood up for sale. They put a for sale sign on in the paper, a building.
Yes. And then they offered another year. They wrote something in the paper looking for people to share a house with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they sold the convent car.
Yeah, they did. I remember that story.
Look, so we've talked a lot about what we love about this place, but one of the things that is the heart and soul is service. It's one of our 4 pillars. And as we've said, our graduates go into careers of service. And we also have this beautiful connection with South Africa. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Who wants to tell us a little bit about that service, that social justice outside of the school?
Yeah, well, I mean, when Sister Judy was principal while I was here, and she made that connection with South Africa and Sister Michael, and I remember her coming to the assembly and telling us about the stories of South Africa and what her people were going through. And I love that connection 30 years on is still something that the girls raise money for Montebello. And look, service is one of our pillars. It's intrinsic to who we are. It's about thinking about other people and being outward focused. And it's also about using our privilege for helping other people. So look, everyone can be a part of service. It doesn't have to be giving money, or like even Trudy's time back to the college, that's a form of service. Yeah. And so it's wonderful that people can do it in a way that makes, but that's authentic to them as well.
And girls, you have a fairly busy schedule. You play sport, you go to school, you're going into year 12. But you also have this whole other life in the community where you are working for talk about that a little bit. What's driven you outside of the college to give in that kind of way to make an impact on the grander community out there?
I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've had to deal with coming into especially year 11 is finding balance between like my passions and my academics and just a lot of the things that I do. And I've come to realise that it's not like a matter of how many things I do, but it's how many things I do that I feel like give me purpose and add value to my life and to other people's lives. And then I found that service is not something that I can just add to my resume or tick a box in. It's something that actually I feel like gives me purpose and gives me drive. And one thing I remember, kind of building off what you said about using your privilege, I went to a social justice conference last year at the Mary MacKillop Centre, and one of the speakers said this quote that has really stuck with me. She advised us to use our privilege to privilege others. Yeah. And I think that was a really important sentiment, especially because we are so privileged to go to school in a place like this.
Yeah. And we talk about standing on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. And so you will then continue that tradition, and then others will come behind you. The young ones look up to you, and it just keeps on going, this incredible, rich community. Now, we know there's been a report issued by The Lancet today, actually, which talks about the rise in depression in young people, 50% more mental health issues in the last 15 years, especially for young women. I think doing things for others, I think, builds an armour against that. And I think you said before, it gives me purpose. Yeah. And so I think as a school, that's been at the heart of this place, giving young women that purpose to go and do good. And as a bonus, it makes us feel better, which is pretty wonderful. And the other thing, of course, we know is that good relationships are the number one predictor of a long life and good health. And so we are absolutely determined to connect and to really enrich our community. And I bet you kind of devote your whole life to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I do like to think, I sometimes feel people might think, as an ex-student and currently working here, that there's a certain, build stronger relationships with people, but I'd like to think that everyone here gets that same experience, that it doesn't matter if you're an ex-student or your family came before you. Everyone is sort of celebrated and has the opportunity to build those relationships if they want to, and that's really important to me, that this community continues to flourish. And
So, I mean, we're at the moment, this year has been a big year for us because the sisters, of course, handed over ownership of the land, the buildings to the Dominican Education Australia. So the sisters have moved from a relationship of governance to one of accompaniment, is what we're saying. And of course, the sisters are here, they're connected with the girls, we have morning tea with them. But we all know that in the future, we may not have so many sisters here. How do you feel about us continuing that legacy? Do you think we're going to be up to it?
Absolutely. I think because of that emphasis on adapting to the times, that will always continue. The buildings are the glue that holds it all together, in a sense. You can't pass these buildings and think something went on here. The other thing that keeps coming to my mind when we're talking about the service element, that the Dominican Trust is not about patting people on the head and saying, there, here, I'll give you $1 and make you feel better. Yes. It's about study. It's about being part of a political framework. It's about changing the structures. And I like to think that Santa Sabina will continue that, just as people did in times past. But as far as the sisters are concerned, it's an interesting place to find ourselves. But we do believe very strongly that there is a future, and that all the educational endeavours, at one stage we were responsible for 77 schools and now we have none. But there's a sense of confidence in that all the blood, sweat and tears that's gone into the education system will continue through people. This is giving lay people an opportunity to carry it on in a way that wasn't there when I entered.
No, but goodness me, we love the feistiness of the sisters, the sassiness of the sisters. You know, you give people like me courage to do what I've got to do. And I worry about not having that in the future, because for me, that is such a powerful, off you go and do this and I'm right here with you. And I feel.
But how can we feel as though nothing's going to happen? When I think about the sisters who came here first, who came to Australia in 1867, this handful of women who had no idea of what the colony was like, who gave up everything. And then in 25 years they had 6 schools and were doing great things, but they were ordinary women who were just running with what they saw needed to be changed.
If you're going to build something, you must have a good base, a good foundation. And this is what the sisters have done for Santa 1894, 1867, for all their other schools. They have built the foundation and they have built what will be the future. And it's our job to remember the foundation and all of those stories.
Yeah, and we're so lucky that the charism and the symbolism is everywhere you look around here. Like I look in this room and, you know, you can see elements of the Dominicans all over the place. It's something that we won't lose because it's so intrinsic to who we are.
And don't forget, the sisters in Ireland were not allowed to be sisters until 1829. And all that time, from when they first went in 1227, they were in Ireland. All of that time, they were thrown out by Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth, Cromwell, all these people, and they still managed to survive because they believed in what they were doing. And I have every confidence that you people believe in what you're doing in the same way.
Oh, I like that.
So we're close to finishing up here this afternoon, but last words, I guess. Is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off this afternoon, Anna Maria?
Well, definitely like what you were talking about like the faith that we have in our community. Like I notice a lot of girls really focus on implementing their faith into what we do. Like we have God's word and we all try our best to implement it in everything we do, and I think that's so beautiful.
So it's putting words into action.
Yes.
Okay, and Remy?
I just wanted to share this beautiful excerpt from the book Dancing St. Dom's Plot.
That was done for
Which
our
was-
100.
And you know, for people who don't know, Dom's plot is a big, beautiful piece of grass at the front here. No one's allowed to stand on it. On the first day of school, the little ones are allowed to do the hokey pokey or dance on there. And then on the last day of school, the Year 12 girls, of course, dance on there as well. And the Year 4 boys when they leave. So beginning and end, Dom's plot is sacred. No one's allowed on it. So let's hear what you've got to say.
They wish Santa Sabina College to be a place where students explore the tension between maintaining and changing social structures. They want students to develop questioning, critical minds that are able to challenge and analyse the status quo, and to have the skills, desire and social imagination to affect change in society. Their version of the Dominican spirit is that rules are there to maintain order and provide social cohesion, but they are never entirely sacred. Sometimes they are there to be overlooked, to be challenged, even to be changed. Sometimes sacred ground is to be danced on.
So there's a bit of that sass coming through, isn't it, Remy? A little bit of sass there.
Yes.
Trudy, last words?
The sisters. I couldn't narrow this down. Mother St Luke, who was very even and very fair. Sister Anne Banfield, Sister Mary Joseph, who in 1965, this is before women's lib hitters, when being told that I wanted to be a doctor, just looked at me and said, "You'll have to work harder on your maths." I could do it, I just had to be able to do it. But the guiding light has to be Sister Diana Woods, Sister Mary Julia, she was then. She was calm, she was even.
She still is.
And yes, and she has had a beautiful smile, and she brings great joy to me, as to all the sisters when I see them. And they're the ones, in many ways, that I have to thank for my life, how my life developed, apart from my parents, of course.
Look, I do feel like I have such a wonderful job, and I love that I have a different relationship with the college being a staff member, and I can't wait to see what happens at 150 year anniversary and those that follow, because that excites me to see where the college will be at that time.
Yes, absolutely. And Liz, our historian, our archivist, what are your last words?
We had St Dominic's Day last week, as everybody did, and we invited back teachers who had taught at Santa Sabina and at Del Monte, just the Sydney people, and we thought we might get 20 people or it'd be a small thing. But by word of mouth, we ended up with 110 teachers going back to the 80s, and it was the most joyous experience I've had for a very long time, and I think it marked everything. These people still really treasured their time at Santa Sabina, and all I can say is keep on keeping on.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, I certainly love working here. I love being part of this community. I love having a conversation about this community and how special it is to all of us. We'll see you next time. Thank you.